How tissues are made in factory. Tissues, such as facial tissues and paper towels, are typically made in factories using a process called paper making. The process has evolved over time, but the basic steps involved in tissue paper production have remained relatively consistent. In early times, the history of tissue paper production in factories dates back to the early 19th century. Before the industrial era, tissues were made by hand, a labor-intensive process that limited their availability and affordability. However, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, paper-making technology underwent significant advancements. The first tissue paper machine was invented in 1876 by the United States Paper Company, marking a turning point in tissue production. These early machines utilized wood pulp and a mechanical process to create a continuous roll of tissue paper. Nowadays, raw material preparation. The raw material preparation for tissue paper production involves the initial processing of wood pulp or recycled paper to create a suitable pulp slurry. In the case of wood pulp, the raw material is usually sourced from trees, which are debarked, chipped, and then pulped using mechanical or chemical methods. These processes break down the wood fibers into a pulp consistency. For recycled paper, collected paper materials go through a de-inking and cleaning process to remove impurities like ink, staples, and contaminants. Once the raw material is cleaned and refined, it is mixed with water to form a pulp slurry. This slurry is a critical starting point for the subsequent paper-making steps, ultimately determining the quality and properties of the tissue paper, such as softness and strength. Chemical additives may also be introduced at this stage to further refine the pulp for specific product requirements. Pulp preparation. The pulp slurry is refined and processed to break down the fibers and create a homogeneous mixture. Chemicals may be added at this stage to improve the quality and properties of the tissue paper, such as softness and strength. Pulp preparation is a pivotal stage in the tissue paper production process, where the raw material undergoes transformation into a suitable pulp for crafting high-quality tissues. If the primary raw material is wood pulp, it usually begins with the debarking, chipping, and pulping of wood fibers, either through mechanical or chemical means. This process effectively disintegrates the wood fibers into a pulp consistency, breaking them down into the essential building blocks for paper production. For tissues made from recycled paper, collected materials are subjected to de-inking and thorough cleaning to remove any impurities like ink, staples, and other contaminants. Once these raw materials are cleaned and refined, they are expertly mixed with water, forming a pulp slurry. The composition and quality of this slurry play a fundamental role in determining the final characteristics of the tissue paper, including its softness and strength. Depending on the specific tissue product requirements, various chemical additives may also be introduced during this stage to further enhance the pulp's quality and suitability for production. Forming the sheet. The pulp slurry is poured onto a continuous wire mesh screen, which is part of a machine known as the paper-making machine. As the water drains through the screen, the fibers form a sheet. This wet sheet is then pressed to remove excess water. The formation of the tissue paper sheet is a critical step in the production process, where the prepared pulp slurry is transformed into the foundational material for tissues. This step typically takes place on a continuous wire mesh screen within a machine called the paper-making machine. The pulp slurry is poured onto the screen, and as water drains through it, the individual fibers begin to interlock and bond, gradually forming a wet sheet. This wet sheet is then passed through a pressing stage, where excess water is removed. The pressing not only aids in further consolidating the fibers, but also contributes to the density and thickness of the sheet. The formed sheet at this point contains a considerable amount of water, and it proceeds to the drying phase. Here it passes through a series of heated rollers that effectively remove the remaining water content, leaving the sheet dry and solid. The quality and characteristics of the final tissue paper are heavily influenced by the care and precision taken in this sheet formation process, ensuring that it meets the required standards for softness, strength, and overall quality. Drying. This process dries the sheet and further consolidates the fibers. The drying process in tissue paper production is a crucial stage where the wet paper sheet, containing a substantial amount of water, is transformed into a dry, usable product. After the sheet is formed through the initial steps, it proceeds to the drying section. Here, the wet sheet is guided through a series of heated rollers, where heat and pressure work together to remove the remaining moisture. These rollers are typically set at precise temperatures and pressures to ensure that the sheet dries uniformly, reducing the risk of wrinkles or defects in the final product. As the sheet passes through these rollers, the water within it is gradually evaporated, leaving behind a dry and solid tissue paper. The drying process not only removes moisture, but also further consolidates the paper fibers, which contributes to the tissue's strength and overall quality. Careful control of this stage is essential to avoid over-drying, which can make the tissue paper brittle, or under-drying, which can leave it too moist for packaging. Properly executed, the drying process ensures that the tissue paper meets the desired standards for softness, absorbency, and durability, making it ready for the subsequent steps of cutting, embossing, packaging, and distribution. Calendering. Calendering is a significant step in tissue paper production that refines the paper's surface finish, enhancing its smoothness and overall quality. After the tissue paper has been dried, it can undergo the calendering process. In this phase, the dried paper sheet is passed through a series of heavy rollers under controlled pressure and temperature. These rollers are often made of metal and are heated, and they exert pressure on the paper as it passes through them. This combination of heat and pressure not only improves the surface finish of the tissue paper, but also reduces its thickness and increases its density. As a result, the tissue becomes smoother, softer, and more uniform in texture, which is essential for products like facial tissues. The calendering process can also have an impact on the tissue paper's opacity and absorbency. The level of calendering can be adjusted to meet the specific requirements of different tissue products. However, for toilet tissue, manufacturers typically apply less calendering to maintain its strength and absorbency. Cutting and packaging. After the tissue paper has been formed, dried, and possibly calendared, it's cut into the desired dimensions for the final product, whether it's individual tissue sheets or rolls. These cut pieces are then carefully packaged, often in various quantities, from single rolls to multi-packs, depending on consumer needs. Packaging can include plastic wrapping, cardboard boxes, or other suitable materials. Quality control measures are maintained throughout this process to ensure the tissue paper meets the required standards for softness, strength, and cleanliness. Once packaged, the tissue products are ready for distribution to retailers, where they'll be available for purchase by consumers. Packaging and distribution. Packaging and distribution are the final stages of the tissue paper production process. Once the tissue paper has been manufactured, cut, and possibly subjected to embossing or perforation, it is carefully packaged in various quantities, which can range from individual sheets to multi-roll or multi-pack configurations. The choice of packaging materials and design varies according to the specific product and brand preferences. Common packaging options include plastic wrapping, cardboard boxes, or other suitable materials. Quality control procedures remain in place at this stage to ensure that the tissue paper products meet the required standards for softness, strength, and cleanliness. After packaging, the tissue products are then ready for distribution. These products are shipped to retailers and supermarkets, where they become readily available for consumers to purchase. Efficient distribution networks ensure that tissue paper is accessible to consumers, meeting their daily needs for hygiene, cleaning, and convenience. The effectiveness of this process is crucial in ensuring a continuous and reliable supply of tissue paper products to the market. Thanks for watching. I hope you like it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon.